Next, we got to talk about the critical need for autonomy. You, the neurotypical wife, have probably realized that your husband is a solo player who just happens to be married. For most autistic people, having a sense of control over their actions and environment isn't just a preference, it's a core need for feeling regulated and safe and sane. To the autistic brain, the world feels like a chaotic, unpredictable mess. So creating internal structure is not only a key to survival, it's a key to sanity. So when his neurotypical wife constantly jumps in with her suggestions, it can feel like a direct attack on his autonomy. He might have a very specific, logical way of doing something, logical according to him. Her idea to do it better isn't just an alternative. It's a disruption of a system he built to manage the world. It implies his way is wrong. It steamrolls his sense of agency. The feeling of being controlled isn't him being dramatic. It's the genuine neurological experience of having his own self-regulation system hijacked. And this can lead to what's known as demand avoidance, where even simple tasks become incredibly stressful because they feel like a demand that's stealing his control. Okay, so if your spouse does or says something that you download as being disrespectful, it hurts. We'll call it hurtful. But when you replay the event, now you're hurting you. Okay, so when you replay the original thing that happened once, but you've replayed it 15 times, it feels like it's happened 15 times, and then you blame your spouse for doing it to you for 15 times when it was only once. So yeah, we'll call the original event hurtful. Shouldn't have happened, it was wrong. But your replays, it's not the other person doing it to you then, now you're doing it to yourself. Have you ever heard of Cassandra syndrome? Well, here's some of the traits of that. And if you resonate with this, then maybe you have Cassandra syndrome. First thing is you often find yourself feeling lonely even when you're in a crowded room or surrounded by friends. You might notice that you're seeking frequent reassurance or validation from others, indicating that you're craving emotional connection and support. You may be spending an excessive amount of time on social media or watching TV and so on to feel connected, even though it often leaves you feeling more empty and unfulfilled. And you may find yourself reacting strongly to emotional moments in movies, music, and conversations and so on, because these experiences resonate with your unfulfilled need for connection. So if that resonates with any of you, you may want to investigate this thing called Cassandra syndrome. And there's a link right here that says feeling stressed. That is a 10-minute meditation for those of you who may be experiencing this. And it's going to be about recovering from Cassandra syndrome. So give this 10-minute video a listen and see if it can help. Thank you. In this video, I want to validate those of you out there who are the neurotypical spouse suffering from Cassandra syndrome. When you're in a relationship with somebody on the autism spectrum, you can expect emotional blind spots. That would be difficulty recognizing when you, as the NT spouse, are sad, anxious, or lonely. There's going to be flat communication. In other words, conversations may lack depth, nuance, or emotional resonance. There's going to be literal thinking. That's going to be struggles with metaphor, implication, subtle social cues, and so on. There's going to be perspective taking difficulties. That's going to be a limited ability to step into your shoes. And of course, there's going to be shutdowns or meltdowns, which would be emotional overwhelm that leads to withdrawal or explosions. Now, none of these are intentional, okay? It's not purposeful cruelty. They are the natural outcomes of a brain wired differently. But that doesn't really make much difference, because for the neurotypical spouse, the effect is a steady diet of disappointment. And I'm not making your ASD spouse out to be a bad person. I'm sure they're a very good person. So we're in agreement with that. But unfortunately, when you're not getting your needs met, we have the Cassandra syndrome phenomenon. Especially the neurotypical spouses. It would be really awesome if you could have a little bit of grace and mercy and compassion for your autistic spouse, because he has a developmental disorder. That's the key term right there, developmental. That means his emotional brain is not and did not fully develop. So when he was a child, he was always lagging. His peers were always ahead of him in the social and emotional sense.
They had social skills that he didn't. They had emotional intelligence that he didn't. And worse than that, he hit a ceiling at some point. So his emotional development was always behind, and then at some point it hit a ceiling. So you could have an autistic spouse, for example, and let's say he's 45 years old chronologically. Emotionally, he's more like a 14-year-old. So if you're going to connect with people in a social sense, you have to have emotional intelligence. So if you would say that your autistic spouse lacks social skills, it's because he lacks the development, a normal development of his emotional brain.
You know, the truth is that your core essence is one of love. Your organic state, your natural state is one of love. You are a loving, kind, caring, compassionate person who wants to give. But some of you feel like you've lost that. It's like, I've lost a piece of me. I'm not the person I used to be. This autistic spouse of mine brings out the worst behavior in me. I'm starting to doubt myself. I'm starting to doubt my sanity. I'm starting to believe that I'm mean-spirited. I'm noticing that I don't have much forgiveness in my heart anymore. I notice that I'm bitter and resentful. This is not the person I was. This is not the person I want to be. It's not the person that you are. That's not you. Your behavior may be dysfunctional, and you may be saying and doing things that are unloving, but that doesn't affect your core self. Your true self is one of love. That has never changed. You've always been love. You are love. You will always be love. That can never be changed. Your true essence cannot be threatened by anybody else or your own behavior. So, you have an assignment today. And that is, after you click off this video, I want you to remind yourself, you know, my true essence is one of love. In spite of my ego getting in the way and causing me to behave in unloving ways, that doesn't change my core essence. And then 5 hours later, I want you to say the same thing. My true essence is one of love. My behavior, my poor choice of words does not reflect my true essence. And then 5 hours later after that, I want you to remind yourself again, my true essence is one of love. So that's your assignment. 3 times today, I want you to remind yourself that you have not lost yourself. You've lived a bad dream for too many years, and you thought that you lost yourself, but you haven't. The self can't be lost. Your true essence can't be lost, can't be changed, can't be threatened. Nobody has the power to get you outside of your true essence. You don't even have the power to get you outside of your true essence. That's it. Your love, your true essence is love. It's always been that way. It's that way today. It'll be that way tomorrow and next week and 50 years from now. Hey, quick message to sufferers of Cassandra syndrome out there. You've tried to deliver your message to your ASD husband 100 different ways, and still it doesn't land. So if conversations aren't working, use a different tool. We're going to talk about keeping it short and on one topic. So here's some ideas. First of all, don't talk while flooded, hungry, or multitasking. And also, schedule the talk. Could we do 10 minutes after dishes? One topic. So predictability lowers his anxiety. And if you put it on a shared calendar and his brain knows when we are going to have a short talk on one topic, it relaxes him enough to be able to hear you. So this note is going to only have 3 lines. It could be on a post-it note, index card, or a text. It's only going to have 3 lines. There's going to be a topic line, an I feel line, and a request line. Here it is. Topic. Weekend plans. I feel statement. Anxious when plans change last minute. Request. Decide by Friday 6 p.m. You're speaking in bullet points rather than full sentences. So keep that note concrete, short, and visual. That beats long emotional monologues big league. It's not dumbing down, it's building a bridge so that his brain can cross over to your brain. One behavior, one time frame, one metric. By the way, subscribe because I'll be doing videos several times a week. I don't want you to miss anything. Hey friends, Mark Hutten here. If you're a non-autistic wife feeling lonely in your marriage, this one's for you because I want to talk about 3 things every NT wife needs to know in a neurodiverse marriage. Point number 1, you're not doing anything wrong. Your emotional needs are real. It isn't your fault that your ASD partner doesn't give you the connection the way you imagine. Brains can be wired differently, and connection doesn't always look the same on both sides. So understanding this isn't resignation, it's clarity. Point number 2, safety comes first. People open up when they feel safe, not pressured. Lower tension, lower expectations for perfection, and invite connection gently. Try to create moments where you both can actually feel seen, even in small ways. Point number 3, you deserve balance too. It's okay to step back from the therapist on standby role in your home. You deserve equal emotional investment. So take care of your needs and reclaim your role as a partner instead of being a therapist for him all the time. Okay? You're not a parent. You're not a therapist. You're not an emotions manager. You're not the meltdown control police. So you need to let your ASD partner meet you as an equal, not as a caretaker. Now, if this resonates, pause with compassion, not guilt. You can love someone deeply and still ask for emotional support, and you deserve both connection and peace. Now, share this with another wife who needs to hear it today. You're not alone. Subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. You're saying that he seems emotionally distant. Ask him for his definition of that. Hey, what's your definition of emotional distance? And let him say, if he can come up with the answer, so you'll know what his definition is of being emotionally distant. But with respect to how can you cope with your feelings of loneliness, I would put it in the form of a request for him to help you feel less lonely. So this is you talking to your husband. If I were to video record you helping me feel less lonely when I download your actions as being emotionally distant. I'm not accusing you of being emotionally distant, but sometimes I download it that way and I feel lonely. And just in case you would want to help me with that, if I were to video record you helping me in those moments of loneliness, you would be saying or doing some of these things. Do you ever feel like your emotions just don't register? You know, like you could be crying in plain sight and it wouldn't change a thing. Okay, well, you're not invisible, you're just unheard in a language mismatch. So let's try to work on that. Let's talk about the loop of invisibility first. You hint, he misses it, you get louder, he shuts down, and then you apologize for being too emotional, and the loop repeats. And then before long, you start editing yourself. You stop sharing the small things, and that's where connection used to live. You know, invisibility doesn't happen overnight. It happens by 1,000 tiny silences. Now let's talk about intent versus impact. Your ASD spouse does not intend to hurt you, but the impact, it's real. Autistic partners can miss tone and subtext, but that doesn't mean your longing is invalid. You can love someone deeply and still feel profoundly lonely. And saying that out loud doesn't make you cruel, it just makes you honest. Now, let's talk about reclaiming visibility. When you're talking to him, you can say it simply. When I share something important, I need a response even if it's short. Or you can say, if you can't talk now, please tell me when we can talk. Then schedule weekly check-ins. Keep them short, one topic. No distraction. I said, weekly check-ins, short, one topic, no digital devices or distractions. And if this talk starts going south again, you can say, okay, I'm pausing right now, I'll revisit tomorrow. Now that isn't withdrawal or a shutdown, that's wisdom. And every time you do this, you come back into focus, not as a caretaker, but as a full person. So I would like for you to comment below and let me know what you're going to do this week in the way of using your scripts. We talked about 3 of them in this video. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking for enough. Use your scripts. By the way, subscribe now because I'll be doing videos several times a week and I don't want you to miss anything. The emotional hunger of people that suffer from Cassandra syndrome is often hidden behind a polished exterior. You know, you may smile at family dinners, laugh at parties, and praise your spouse's strengths to others. But when the guests leave and the house grows quiet, you kind of return to a world of silence and unmet needs. And this double life, if we'll call it that, creates deep isolation because others only see a stable, successful, ASD spouse, and they don't often believe your private pain, and they may even view you as being overly emotional and dramatic and so on. And this disbelief deepens the wound and reinforces silence. So those living with an autistic spouse, we're not making him out to be a bad guy. I'm sure he's a great guy. I like him just fine, probably very smart. But if you are suffering from Cassandra syndrome, then you're feeling more isolated in marriage than you ever felt when you were alone. And you kind of wonder why love doesn't really feel like love. And you may believe that you're being selfish and wanting too much. You may mourn the loss of the marriage you had imagined. And you've kind of learned to meet all your emotional needs at the cost of intimacy. Now, these consequences are not a reflection of weakness or selfishness. They're the consequences of emotional deprivation. So if this resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'll have more videos coming up. There's going to be a link to a video right there that will take you to some things that you can do given the cards that you've been dealt. All right, thanks. Cassandra syndrome is rarely obvious to outsiders. Unlike infidelity, addiction, or abuse, it doesn't make for dramatic stories. Instead, it lives in subtler places, like, the dinner table where conversations feel mechanical, the living room where silence stretches for hours, the bedroom where intimacy has withered, the therapy session where the spouse says, he's not a bad man, he just doesn't see me. It's these small daily absences that Cassandra syndrome takes root. So if this resonates with you, like, subscribe. Also, if you'll do a search on Amazon, you'll find my book for Cassandra syndrome sufferers. Just do a search for Mark Hutten Amazon books. The book is called, I'm looking at it right now, Living in the Shadow, Healing from Cassandra Syndrome in an Autistic Marriage. Stay in touch, comment below. If he has ASD level 1, he has mind blindness issues, emotions blindness issues, executive function deficits, all of which create huge anxiety. What I run into most often, if he were to be honest with himself, he often feels confused and insecure in the relationship. This causes a lot of anxiety. He's always in the process of alleviating anxiety, either with a shutdown or a meltdown or just staying busy outside of the relationship. But unfortunately, and now this is the message to the guys in here, your anxiety reduction strategies have, in most cases, made your anxiety worse because you just kicked the can down the road. A quick message to neurotypical wives out there who may be suffering from Cassandra syndrome. This video right here could change everything for you. Listen. When your autistic husband shuts down, it feels like rejection, and why wouldn't it? I don't blame you. But emotionally, something very different is happening. Most autistic men retreat not because they don't care, but because their nervous system is overwhelmed. Too many words, too much emotion, too much pressure to fix it, and their brain hits a survival mode called shutdown. You've lived it. But listen, here's the important stuff. It's not about you. It's his way of trying to stay regulated. And here's the part that nobody tells you, and you may not believe it, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. A shutdown is actually an attempt to protect the relationship. I know, sounds like that's not the case, I get it. But think about it, meditate on it, pray about it, and you'll get it. And I'm going to repeat it. A shutdown is actually an attempt to protect the relationship, not to escape it. He wants connection. He just doesn't know how to stay in the moment without flooding. He wants to make you happy. He just doesn't know how to do it. He's frustrated too. So the next time he goes quiet, remember, it's not rejection, it's overload. And with the right skills, both of you can learn calmer ways to get back to one another. Okay? I know, it's hard to believe. Think about it. Follow for more Cassandra Syndrome support. Okay, this channel is for the most part, neurotypical wives who have Cassandra Syndrome. But in this video, I would like for you to share this with your autistic husband. So let's assume that you were successful in doing that. So now I'm talking to your ASD husband. Guys, here's what happened to your NT wife. Initially, there was some emotional reciprocity. It was acceptable, right? There was give and take in conversation, affection. Maybe she was your special interest. There was a lot of quality time and so on. But that emotional reciprocity waned over time. You kind of drifted away. There was no malicious intent on your part. You didn't do it purposefully. You just kind of the romantic phase was over and you got absorbed in your special interest and you kind of left her behind. You didn't know that you did that, although I'm sure she mentioned it to some degree or another. The next thing is the emotional reciprocity becomes virtually non-existent because you're perfectly content to be absorbed in your special interest, which is usually work, and you get a lot of your needs met that way. She's over there withering on the vine. The next step then is she pleads, begs, negotiates, nags, which would be a term you might use, for some emotional reciprocity. She is not getting her emotional needs met. Her requests or even demands to get those needs met go unanswered. And so then eventually she gets to the point where she feels deprived, depreciated. She feels that work's more important to him than me. And she may label you as selfish, insensitive, uncaring, narcissistic, and so on. But anyway, the point to this video is there's this drifting away process that you do as the ASD husband. Initially, there's a lot of connection. Over time, you unconsciously drift away. She pleads for you to come back, pleads, and pleads. You don't really see the importance of that. And so you continue to kind of drift away. And if she has pleaded so strongly that now it downloads to you as criticism and an attack, you purposefully try to stay away from her because she may have become your number one source of anxiety. Not every Cassandra partner experiences the syndrome in the same way. Some feel occasional pangs of loneliness. Others describe years of despair. Some cope by throwing themselves into work, hobbies, or parenting, and others sink into a depression. But all share a common thread, which is a sense of being unseen and unheard by the person they love most. Now, some spouses resist the label Cassandra syndrome because they worry that it pathologizes their pain. But having a name is not about blame, it's about validation. Without a name, your suffering feels invisible. With a name, you can reframe your struggles as real and legitimate. You can recognize that you're not alone, and you can begin to seek support from those who understand. A name turns isolation into solidarity. It transforms silence into speech. This is my book, available on Amazon. Please subscribe and like.
She feels kind of ripped off. It's like, I got tricked. I got fooled. I've been cheated out of my dream. This is not what I signed up for. This is not at all what I was expecting as a 16-year-old girl that was already looking forward to someday, having a family and whatnot. You weren't having that thought at 16 years old. You didn't have the thought one time, gosh, I cannot wait to get married and have kids. I'm really looking forward to that day. You never had that thought at all. You're more concerned maybe with playing your games or some kind of special interest thing. So in summary, she feels like her dreams have been stolen and she feels like she's at the wrong.
So autism is no respecter of persons any more than Hurricane Ian was a respecter of people in Fort Myers Beach, Florida, for example. It doesn't respect the person who has autism. It doesn't respect the person who's married to the person who has autism. It's been around for a long time, allegedly a few hundred years, and a lot of people suspect that it's been around since day one. So it's not going anywhere, not anytime soon. It is what it is. Don't take it personally any more than you would take Hurricane Ian personally. Well, I can't believe that hurricane just happened to tear down my house. I'm taking that as a personal affront. Hurricane wasn't concerned about you, wasn't thinking about you. It had nothing to do with you. Now, having said that, you can still feel the pain associated with being involved in the event, on the receiving end of maybe a meltdown from your autistic husband, on the receiving end of storms that tear up your house. So I'm not saying you're not affected by it, but I am saying that it is something that exists in the universe, and you can either fight it or accept it. But if you fight it, it always wins.
Okay, hey, let's talk briefly about understanding shutdowns and overwhelm. I want you to be thinking in terms of noticing early warning signs. So your autistic husband might feel tense, he might go blank, he might lose words, he might stare at the floor, he might leave. And you as the neurotypical partner might feel anxious, talk faster, push harder, pursue him when he tries to leave. So when these signs appear, it's time to slow down, not dig in. So shutdown and meltdown are two sides of the same coin. Both are forms of nervous system overwhelm. They're not choices, ladies. They're automatic responses. Recognizing the pattern early allows both of you to intervene with compassion instead of criticism. So each of you as the neurotypical wife and your ASD husband, I'd like for you to list your top 3 warning signs that you're approaching overload and share them with one another. Example, when I stop making eye contact, that means I'm at my limit. And then agree on a cue to signal that it's time to pause. When silence becomes your home language, love starts to feel like isolation. So let's talk about how to live through shutdowns without losing yourself. What's the true meaning to his silence, your ASD husband? A shutdown isn't rejection, it's overload. The autistic brain can only handle so much social noise before it goes offline. But your body reads silence as abandonment. So the moment you most need reassurance, you get distance. That mismatch cuts deep. How do you navigate these shutdowns? Well, when it happens, separate the person from the moment. In other words, you can say calmly, I'm going to read in the bedroom for a bit. Join me if you can. That's self-protection, not punishment. And later, when calm returns, use a debrief like, when you went quiet, I felt anxious. Next time, could we check in after 30 minutes? So that's one gentle structure that can save the relationship from chronic misfires. How do you care for your nervous system? Ground yourself, feel your feet, name 5 things you see, text a safe friend, remind yourself this is temporary, I'm safe, I still matter. So when you stay regulated, you break the generational pattern of emotional panic that silence tries to trigger. So I'd like for you to tell me in the comments one phrase you'll use next time instead of spiraling. Also, be sure to visit CassandraSyndromeRecovery.com. I have a group that meets 4 weeks, 1 hour each week. It's a recovery group, and you'll get to meet some recovery sisters. In other words, other ladies going through the same thing that you're going through. So, you're learning to protect your peace, and that's power. What I run into all the time when I'm working with the neurodiverse couples online, when she has Cassandra syndrome, the NT wife that is, she feels like he doesn't care and that everything else is more important than she is. Now, on his end, the ASD husband, he feels like he can't do anything right. Doesn't matter what he says or does, it's never good enough, can never meet your expectations. At some level, he feels like a failure. And so he distances himself for safety reasons. It's like, I can't help her the way I'm supposed to help her, and I feel like a failure. And so the best I can do is just kind of keep my distance in order to avoid conflict. Of course, now when he does that, she's feeling even more rejected and emotionally abandoned, which makes her even more upset and lonely, and she may complain as a result, and why wouldn't she? So now he in turn feels even more like a failure and a disappointment, so he distances himself even more, which makes her feel even more rejected and abandoned, and we get into this cycle. You see what I'm talking about, right? So if that sounds like you, and if we would have the chance to do an online video call using Zoom, we could figure out what's going on in your specific situation, so we can reestablish communication and connection and understanding. It's all one big misunderstanding. Email me, we'll set something up. Also, I post every day, so please subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
Whoever he is, if he doesn't understand your motives, your behavior, why you're saying what you're saying, why you're feeling the way you feel, he will fill in the blank with something that is usually negative. In fact, I will say always negative. If I don't understand this thing, I'm going to fill in the blank with something. I'm going to give it my best guess, and it's going to be a negative spin for sure. It's going to be a negative reframe of your behavior, and so now I think that you're against me. I think you're out to get me. I think you're being parental. I think you're chastising me. I think that you think that I'm defective and flawed, and you're trying to correct me and fix me.
Starting does not equal not wanting to start. Your ASD partner may fully intend to do the chore. He may even feel bad about not doing it. But between intention and action, there can be a neurological barrier. And this is the executive function wall.